What's up, guys? We're live. Pretty fun topic here today. And something I felt that was very important because I hear a lot of the times that obese people can't lose weight because of their slow metabolism. So I'm here to debunk that myth, plus hopefully a couple others. And then we're going to take some questions at the end. So you're going to hear some things about fat loss that are going to be very surprising to you. Likely the opposite of what you formerly believed. And what I'm going to present to you is actually based. Oh. Hope you guys got some of that. My mic was unplugged. But today I'm going to go over some fat loss myths. Again, the main one being that overweight people have a slow metabolism, and that's why they cannot lose weight. That is a myth. I'm going to go into why that's a myth and go over some research that actually proves that's a myth. I'm going to go over some things that affect metabolic efficiency or your ability to lose and gain weight. And a couple of new things that you may not know when it comes to fat gain and fat loss. So a lot of what kind of, and I'm going to also show you a video of the Biggest Loser. So this horrific TV show, I'm going to also show you what not to do if you're obese and somebody else that you know is obese and they need to lose weight. Pretty much it's the complete opposite of what most people are doing. So let's get into it. So there seems to be a common excuse among obese individuals that they cannot lose weight because they have a slow metabolism. Now, what does that mean? I guess what they're probably referring to is they store fat very easily and do not lose fat very easily. But research done by Herman Poncer down in Africa recently, he wrote a book called Burn, kind of turns that notion upside down. What he found throughout his research, which I'm going to get into a little deeper, is that it's the exact opposite. Again, most things in fitness are wrong and in many cases backwards. This in particular, the belief that obese people have a slow metabolism is actually backwards. Obese people actually have a faster metabolism, and their ability to lose fat is actually increased. Now, you would think that, a person gains weight and continues to gain weight because their ability to add fat tissue and their ability to lose fat tissue, their ability to add fat tissue is increased and their ability to lose fat tissue is decreased. It is actually the opposite. They actually have a faster or higher resting metabolic rate the fatter you get. And you actually have a lower or slower resting metabolic rate the leaner you get. So it's actually harder for you to lose fat, and you expend less energy daily when you're leaner than when you're obese. Weird, right? So Dr. Herman Poncer did a study in Africa studying indigenous tribes or, people who still are not living with the trappings of modern technology, very, very active groups of people, to try to find the difference between the amount of energy they expended on a day compared to the amount of energy a modern Western society individual expends with a sedentary lifestyle. So a very active lifestyle versus a very sedentary, technologically advanced lifestyle. And what he found through his research was there is absolutely no difference in daily caloric energy expenditure between an extremely active group of people and an extremely sedentary group of people. So the belief has always been that Western society is obese because of too much food. Well, generally, they blame it on lack of activity, but too much food, too little activity. His research showed that the too little activity has nothing to do with the amount of weight gain in Western society. The energy expenditure between a highly active lifestyle or a very sedentary lifestyle is almost exactly the same. Now I'm going to play his explanation on YouTube really quickly so you can hear what he has to say for yourself. So there you go. This is a guy who studied, I believe it's called the Hadza tribe, and found that there is absolutely no difference in energy expenditure between a highly active group of people and sedentary Western industrialized people. So when obese people say that they're putting on weight or they can't lose weight because their metabolism is slow, keep in mind that there are some genetic factors that affect your ability to add body fat or lose body fat. But they are not as influential or significant as many people would claim they are. So basically, in a nutshell, if you are obese and you are very fat, you only lack discipline and you're lazy. That's basically what it comes down to. So believe it or not, when you start to add muscle tissue or fat tissue and you start to gain weight, your body will increase its resting metabolic rate or increase the speed of its metabolism in order to try to reach some level of homeostasis. It is a feedback loop which tells your body we're adding way too much fat. We need to start burning some because too much of this stuff is going to hinder our ability to survive. And that's when, you start to add fat tissue, your body starts to produce more leptin. And what leptin does is sends a signal to the hypothalamus to curb your appetite so that you stop eating and start burning calories. So more fat tissue equals more leptin secretion. So it's It's supposed to make your appetite reduced, so that way you stop eating, you start burning what you have stored, and more fat is going to result in a higher resting metabolic rate to try to burn some of that extra energy. So it's actually the complete opposite. Now, the problem is when you get too fat, and the reason a lot of people get too fat is because of their macronutrient or nutrition choices, which is generally a lot of processed foods, refined carbohydrates, which stimulate the production of insulin, and insulin pretty much blocks leptin from getting to the hypothalamus. So if you're eating a diet high in insulin, it's going to block leptin from telling the hypothalamus to reduce your appetite and start burning. So that's a lot of the reason why super obese people continue to get fat and are generally never really satisfied when it comes to their eating. It is their eating habits. It's got less to do with their genetics, nothing to do with their activity level, according to recent research. And it's got mostly to do with their character, their lack of discipline, and their outright laziness. Probably something along the lines of some sort of victimhood mentality, just won't do the work. So, obesity is their own fault or your own fault, and it is up to you and your responsibility to fix it. Don't blame it on your sedentary desk lifestyle because, again, according to recent research, that has nothing to do with it. And don't blame it on lack of time to cook. It is your fault. You take the responsibility. Now, that leads us to another thing. With this new research, it is evident that cardio, as I said in the past, does very little for fat loss. It actually does even less than that. It does nothing for fat loss. One second. I'm going to throw this banner up. Oops, that's not the right one. So, if activity levels have no effect on your energy expenditure daily, so if you're expending a ton of energy, say you're working a construction job or you're a nurse and you're running around the hospital versus somebody who works in a cubicle and sits all day long, since your energy expenditure in those two situations are exactly the same, no matter how much you move, your energy expenditure is the same as a sedentary person, then it's obvious that cardio is useless when it comes to fat loss. Because the old belief was that eat less, move more. Or what a lot of idiot bodybuilders do, or unfortunately misinformed exercisees, is they add cardio to whatever their workout regimen is in order to increase the amount of energy expenditure, believing that the extra energy expend is going to create a calorie deficit and come from fat tissue. And this research, again, by Dr. Herman Poncer, shows that that is not the case. The extra energy that you expend during cardio has no effect on your metabolic rate and has no effect on fat loss. I've got a couple theories as to why some people lose weight, undergoing an exercise program. But most of the time, a lot of people will claim that, they got the Peloton bike or they got the gym membership or did spin class or whatever, and they lost X amount of pounds. But the truth is they very likely, almost certainly, changed their diet habits. But it's sexier to give credit to the Peloton bike or whatever new workout program they're doing. And again, a lot of the marketing tactics used by the fraudulent fitness industry, they focus on the exercise protocol and never mention anything about the diets that the individuals are doing alongside the exercise protocol. So in many cases with these, exercise fads, it's not the exercise protocol that is causing them to lose weight. Apparently, it's not that at all whatsoever. It is the change in their diet and eating habits. So it's evident now that cardio does nothing for fat loss. And you've got a lot of bodybuilders, during their cutting phase, killing themselves in the gym and doing, 40 minutes of cardio a day, and they're doing nothing but wasting time and wearing out their joints. You've got a whole line. You've got, in a commercial gym, you've got 30, 40 pieces of cardio equipment. People are wasting their time on them, wasting their time at best, wearing their knees and hips and joints out at worst, and in many cases doing that. And a lot of people say, well, something is better than nothing. No. In this case, it's not, because you're actually wasting time, which is worse than doing nothing, because that time could be better spent doing something more productive. So, and the reason your metabolism adjusts due to body composition changes and changes in activity levels due to something called adaptive thermogenesis. So your body is so damn adaptive and so damn smart and so efficient that depending on the environment and depending on your body composition, it will adapt its resting metabolic rate in order to conserve as much energy as possible. It's ridiculous how smart and how adaptive our body is. This is called adaptive thermogenesis. I'm just checking out some of my notes here. So, what are some things that affect your resting metabolic rate? If you want your resting metabolic rate to improve while becoming leaner, there are things you can do. First of all, add more muscle tissue. Muscle is a metabolically active tissue, meaning it requires, let me take this down, it requires calories to maintain the tissue. So if you add more muscle tissue, you're going to have a higher resting metabolic rate because it's going to require more energy and more calories to sustain that tissue. How do we add muscle tissue? Resistance training. Very simple. Resistance training with a diet adequate in protein. Another thing that affects resting metabolic rate, again, is the amount of fat tissue you're carrying. And as we found out, the more fat tissue you carry, the higher metabolic rate is. But the reason a lot of people are not losing weight when they add fat tissue is mostly due to the insulin resistance and the high amount of insulin circulating their bloodstream due to their bad dietary choices, and leptin not being able to reach the brain, ghrelin not being able to reach the brain, and this is stunting your body's ability to mobilize fat tissue. So the main problem that people have with losing weight when they gain fat tissue is a hormonal problem, mostly having to do with insulin blocking very important hormones from doing their job in the fat mobilization process. That is why for a lot of people, they diet lower in carbohydrates. Lower, I'm not saying none. You don't necessarily need to go none. It's going to be more beneficial for fat loss. But you never want to go no carbohydrates. Although there's a lot of people who experience significant weight loss by taking their carbohydrates to zero or doing a keto diet or carnivore diet, it is because when you're eating carbohydrates, your body's going to hold more water, and you're also going to hold more muscle glycogen. So when you completely reduce carbohydrates to effectively nothing, you are going to experience pretty rapid weight loss because your body's going to hold less water and less muscle glycogen. The weight loss is not going to be due to fat tissue with these diets. So a lot of people experience rapid weight loss with these diets, but keep in mind, it's not fat tissue. It is generally water and muscle glycogen because you took out the carbohydrates. Anything that results in fast, rapid weight loss is ineffective. It's an illusion. It is anything in exercise or body recomposition that is fast, generally is an illusion. So let's see. One over activity. So your genetics do also play a role in this. Again, as I spoke about in the past, you're born with a certain amount of fat cells. If you're born with more fat cells, your ability to gain weight is going to be higher. You're going to be more likely to gain fat. But that doesn't mean you cannot be lean. If you're born with a fewer number of fat cells, or anywhere from 10 to 20 billion, it's going to be easier for you to be lean. So there are genetic predispositions. Also, there can be medical conditions involving thyroid. What I've noticed a lot, though, is a lot of my female clients blame their weight loss on their thyroid. That's false. There's a very small percentage of people who actually have medical conditions or thyroid issues, which is preventing them from losing the weight. In almost all cases, 99% of cases, they're still eating too much. So a lot of the times when people have stunted weight loss or they're not seeing results very quickly, one reason is they're still eating too much and their measurements are off. And the other reason is adaptive thermogenesis. So as you start to lose more weight, your body's going to be more reluctant to lose the body fat for survival reasons, and the weight's going to come off slower. So the leaner you get, the harder it is to lose body fat. And the way to overcome this is to not stay on a calorie deficit indefinitely, but you want to change your diet completely. You want to change your eating habits completely. You want more nutrient-dense food, less refined foods, foods that occur naturally in the environment. But in terms of calorie deficit, you don't want to do a calorie deficit indefinitely because your body's going to adapt to it. So maybe, 6 to 8 weeks of a calorie deficit, then kind of chill out for a little while and then implement the calorie deficit again, because adaptive thermogenesis is going to take place. It's going to make it hard to lose weight. You're probably going to get frustrated. But the whole point of body recomposition is you need to change your diet indefinitely. You don't need to be on a calorie deficit indefinitely, but you need to change your eating habits indefinitely, forever, in order to achieve a better body composition and maintain it. But in terms of the calorie deficit, you don't want to do it forever, because a lot of the times the body will adapt. You'll stop losing weight, and then you'll try something stupid and drastic like joining a spin class or doing carnivore or doing keto or doing vegan, blah, 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 blah. You don't want to do any of that. What else I got here? So the keys to effective weight loss over time, first of all, keep in mind, a lot of these transformations that you see, people losing significant amounts of weight, is an outright lie. It's photoshopped. There are lighting tricks, photography tricks that they use to make someone look huge and then make them look ripped. And it's generally the same person in the same day that they take both these images, which look completely different. Believe it or not, the before picture is taken after, and the after picture is taken before. It's trickery. It's fraud. So for sustainable weight loss over time, of course, eat nutrient-dense foods. These are going to be things that occur naturally in the environment. Fish, poultry, pork, beef, bugs, whatever. Anything that walks, swims, flies, moves, that's going to be your best protein source. Green leafy vegetables for the fiber, because fiber combined with protein is going to be very satiating. It's going to be very easy for you to control your appetite that way. Lots of water, hydration, because if you are dehydrated, your cells are filled with water, and the cell membrane is filled with cytoplasm, essentially water. So when you become dehydrated, your cell wall, your cell membrane is going to become dehydrated, and its exposure of its receptors is going to be reduced. So a dehydrated cell may not interact with the hormones, such as hormone-sensitive lipase, which pulls the triglycerides out of the cell. A dehydrated cell is going to be less effective interacting with hormone-sensitive lipase on the cell wall at the cell receptor. That is why maintaining adequate hydration levels is also going to be very important for weight loss, so that way your hormones and your receptors can interact and perform the jobs that they need to do. If you are dehydrated, it's going to be a lot harder for them to do this. So quality nutrients, hydration, calorie deficit, of course, ebb and flow in and out of it, and of course, weight training as well, because weight training is going to make you more insulin sensitive, which means your muscle is going to, its ability to interact with insulin and taking glycogen is going to be improved. So that way, the glycogen in your bloodstream is going to be less likely to go into your fat tissue. So insulin sensitivity improves on the muscle cell, decreases on the fat cell, meaning that the glycogen or the glucose that you consume is going to be more likely to be stored in muscle, less likely to be stored in fat tissue. This is another improved metabolic adaptation. But it happens when you add muscle tissue and you work your muscle tissue really hard through resistance training. When you begin to work your muscle tissue really hard over time, insulin sensitivity is going to improve because you're emptying the glycogen out of that muscle tissue, and it's going to upregulate the amount of insulin receptors on the muscle tissue cell, thus making it more insulin sensitive. So weight training plus for body recomposition, we want to reduce our body fat levels and increase our muscle tissue levels for an improved body composition. Reducing your fat tissue getting up through your diet. Increasing muscle tissue is going to come through your training. So quality nutrients, hydration, calorie deficit, weight training. Those four things over a sustained period of time, not 2 weeks, not 6 weeks, not even 12 weeks. This kind of thing, especially if you are obese, is going to take several months to a year in order to achieve a body recomposition or achieve a drastic improvement in your physique. The reason people think you can lose 30 pounds in 30 days or gain 10 pounds in 10 days or whatever, these are marketing gimmicks. These are outright lies. It is physiologically, in many cases, impossible for even a super obese person to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Even if you were 600 pounds, that would be a stretch. No normal human being is going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. A lot of people have a skewed perspective on how fast you should achieve these results. Keep in mind, they will be slow if you're doing them correctly. This is something you're going to do over a long period of time. And it's not something a lot of people want to hear. A lot of my clients too. You know, one client in particular, it took her to lose, I think like 70 pounds. It took her 6 or 7 months. That's about 10 pounds a month. But it's going to take, of course, discipline and patience. So keep in mind, anything that you try to implement into your life for fast or drastic changes is almost always a fraud or a myth. One show that I hate that takes this accelerated drastic approach to weight loss is, you've probably heard of The Biggest Loser. And I've got a video here for you to show how ridiculous their workouts are. But basically, essentially what they do is they starve these people who have been eating like shit forever, haven't exercised a day in their life. So what do? They starve them, and then they beat the crap out of them with very silly, stupid, dangerous exercises. So what a lot of them experience is drastic weight loss. But research has shown with these individuals that their metabolic efficiency actually at the end of these shows was reduced significantly. Almost all of them put the weight back on and then some. And the reason is because of the far too aggressive approach to resistance training or to weight loss. Because you can't push this process along any faster than your body will do it. It's not up to you how fast your body loses weight. It is up to your body. Your job is to sustain the discipline and the focus and create the right habits so that way this happens over time. You can't force your body to lose weight. And when you try to do that, you end up with a disaster like all these Biggest Losers contestants who end up almost certainly with an injury, very little fat loss, and then putting it back on and then some afterwards. So I'm going to show you just for fun. These idiots. Ah, God, I hate her. So as you can see, they're swinging ropes, lifting sandbags. They're beating them to the ground. These are people who are completely, extremely metabolically deconditioned, screaming at them. They're going to end up with a back injury, a knee injury, almost no weight loss to show for it. Look at this. Pushing a sled. Sitting on the ground, pulling a chain. What the? Look at this. These are people who have weak joints, weak muscles, and they're having them push a sled on the ground. Doing planks. What? Okay, I'm throwing up. Why are they making them throw up? Anyway. Silliness. Don't want to do that. As you notice at the bottom right now, I have... So at the bottom is a link to my course. I'm going to put it in the comments. So I produced a course a couple of years ago going over all these topics that I'm talking about with video and instruction. Very well done, very well put together, to give you a pretty in-depth explanation of proper exercise science, nutrition, and even how to perform a lot of the exercises that I talk about, recommend. So I recommend you go to that link, you take that course. You're going to learn a lot about exercise science, physiology, a lot about nutrition sciences, and exercise performance and execution. So if you want a little head start, go ahead, take that course. Take everything you learn in that course and apply it to your workouts. So that way you can get a lot of this information almost immediately rather than wait for me to put it out over time. So that is an explanation of the myth of slow metabolism when it comes to obese people. Their metabolism is not slow. It's actually upregulated and faster. The fact of the matter is obese people are undisciplined and lazy. Sorry. All right, let's see. I'm going to answer some questions here. All right, I'm going to try to read this question. I have a feeling he doesn't speak very good English. Untrained man starts a weight training program and have great progress, and after the beginning, the progress is more difficult. Yeah, so like I said, as you lose body fat, your body is going to become more reluctant to losing body fat. Your body needs to hold on to fat tissue to survive. So in the beginning, you may experience relatively rapid fat loss, but as your body becomes leaner, fat loss is going to be slower. This is because there is a limit to how much body fat your body can mobilize per day. It is about 30 calories per pound of body fat that you carry. So for instance, say you carry 30 pounds of fat tissue. your body will only be able to metabolize or get 900 calories per day from that fat tissue. Say you did a 1,000-calorie deficit. That other 100 extra calories is going to come from other tissues, not fat tissue. So as your body becomes leaner, you're going to want to reduce your deficit. So say you have 30 pounds of fat tissue. 900 calorie deficit is going to be your maximum. Say you get to the point where you lose 10 pounds of fat tissue. Now you only have 20 pounds of fat tissue. Now the maximum amount of energy you can extract from fat tissue is 600 calories. So with 20 pounds of fat tissue on your body, you can get 600 calories worth of energy out of it, meaning your maximum deficit can only be 600 calories. If you have 30 pounds of fat tissue on your body, you can only extract 900 calories out of that. Your max deficit is going to be 900 calories. So as you can see, the lower your body fat percentage gets, the lower body fat that you carry, the lower your deficit has to become. So keep that in mind. And even if you are adjusting your deficit along the way, your body's going to become more and more reluctant to losing body fat. The last 10 pounds or so of body fat is going to be much, much, much slower. And in general, the fat loss process is not going to be fast. It's going to be slow. It has to be slow. Think about it. You didn't put on 20, 30 pounds, 50 pounds of fat tissue overnight, did you? You did it slowly over time. You didn't even put it on in a month. You did it slowly over time. It's going to take at least that amount of time to take it off, and very likely more than that. Ted Naiman's protein energy ratio diet. I'm like kind of familiar with it. I do actually. There was a chart that I used of his that I sometimes show my clients about the types of food to eat. So yeah, I mean, it basically comes down to basically what I've been saying is start off with diets high in animal proteins. And then the last thing you should consider eating is a refined carb. So yeah, Ted Naiman's research is definitely good. Definitely like it. Definitely trust it. He also prescribes to short, very intense training protocols, but he does it a little more frequently than I would recommend. But again, everybody's ability to tolerate exercise is different. And also when it comes to, your response to exercise and your response to diet, again, there is a tremendous amount of variability. Everybody responds differently. So just because somebody lost X amount of weight doing X diet and X workout doesn't mean you will experience the same thing. You may even experience better or experience worse. So never measure your progress based on what you've seen from others, because there is a huge amount of variability in your response to diet and exercise. But a good rule of thumb is, in the beginning, a pound to about a half a pound of fat loss per week is a very good process. Don't expect 5 or 10 pounds per week. About a half a pound to a pound of fat loss per week is good progress. And that may get down to a quarter of a pound of fat loss per week as time goes on and the leaner your body gets. A healthy range of body fat for men, I would say about 10 to 12, maybe 13% body fat. You should be in the teens. If you are in the upper teens or the lower 20s or above, not good. Almost all men can be from 10 to 13% body fat, and that's very healthy. Again, it's going to depend on your age too. So, I mean, if you're 60 years old, it's going to be a little harder. But if you're, from 20 to 50 years old, there's no reason you shouldn't be in the 10, 11, 12, 13% body fat range. That is healthy. That is attractive. Single digit body fat, pretty rare in most cases and pretty pointless in most cases. Unless you naturally are able to remain single digit body fat, there's no reason, unless you're a competitive bodybuilder or a professional fitness model, to try to achieve single digit body fat. There's no benefit, because unless you achieve single digit body fat very easily and effortlessly, getting to single digit body fat is going to be a ton of work, and keeping it is going to be even more work. It is almost pointless for most people to do that. If that's your goal, I mean, God bless you, but for the most part, it's not worth it. But almost every man can achieve, low teens body fat, and every man should. For women, it's going to be a little higher. Women, lower 20s, upper teens, 19, 20, 22% body fat. That's going to be very healthy for a woman, because they do carry a little more fat tissue. But for men, 10, 11, 12, 13%. Any other questions here? I'm going to keep this probably under an hour today. Any questions about like fat loss type stuff? I feel like I've repeated a lot of these concepts so many times. Oh, also, in the future, I'm setting up a Patreon membership community. So for the next couple of weeks, this YouTube channel, I'm going to give some information out, but I'm going to go in much more depth in my Patreon community, which I'm likely going to charge members about $20 a month. And for $20 a month, I'm going to do 3 live streams a week, plus other videos on various topics, plus answer specific questions from members in the group, and kind of personally help you solve. Again, since exercise and diet it varies so much between individuals, I'm going to help the members personally figure out how to go about their individual diet and exercise approach. So the Patreon site is coming soon. There's going to be plenty of more exclusive content in there. So I urge you to join because you're almost certainly not going to be able to learn this information in the amount of time that my Patreon community will allow you to, or as effectively. So I'm going to have an exclusive membership. We're going to go really deep into detail with a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I'll keep you guys in the loop about that. Let's see. Here's a question. Is reducing meals good or bad? Should we increase meals but in smaller quantities? Meal frequency is completely irrelevant. Whether you eat 2 meals a day, 5 meals a day, 1 meal a day, it's all going to come down to the amount of calories you consume. There's been research on this. Shows no difference when it comes to meal frequency as long as calories are accounted for. So it's basically what works better for you. I mean, very busy individuals, it might be more beneficial to just eat 1 meal a day, maybe 2. Personally, I only eat 2 meals a day. I eat lunch around 1 and then dinner around 7. That works for me. And again, I'm 210 pounds and 10% body fat. So again, the meal frequency isn't going to have an effect on your physique. It's going to be your genetics. If you are somebody who's very hungry in the morning, eat breakfast. If you're somebody who, is very busy in the afternoon, skip lunch. As long as you're getting adequate protein, and as long as you are accounting for calories, whatever your goal may be, if it's weight loss, calorie deficit, outcome, exactly the same. So keep in mind all these little things like meal frequency, what type of protein you eat at what part of the day, what time of the day you eat, supplements. I'll do a video on supplements too, because most of them are a complete ripoff. All these little things that people spend a lot of time worrying about: cadence, exercise selection, exercise sequence, where their protein comes from, where their carbs come from. None of these little things that a lot of people spend their time worrying about make any difference. The reason people spend their time worrying about this is because they've likely reached their genetic limitation and it wasn't what they necessarily wanted to look like, or wasn't necessarily the results that they expected or desired. So then people start wasting their time thinking that, the reason I'm only 160 pounds and not 200 pounds is because my rep cadence is off, or the type of protein I'm eating is off, or my meal frequency is off. No, none of that stuff makes any difference. If you hit a plateau in terms of muscle gain or strength gain or anything like that, the reason is almost certainly your genetics. It is not the little minuscule details like rep cadence, range of motion, all that bullshit doesn't matter. How long should one stick to a training routine? There's no such thing as a training routine, really. That is just something stupid that bodybuilders came up with. Your training should address all of the major muscle groups. Train those major muscle groups with joint-friendly, safe exercises, and train them extremely hard to momentary muscle failure with a volume and frequency that you can individually recover from and adapt to. So generally about 48 to 72 hours in between workouts is good for most people, but you could stick with, so say your workout routine is a full body routine, squat, leg extension, leg curl, heel raise, chest press, pull down, overhead press, row, biceps, triceps. Eight exercises. Say that is your workout routine, and you do that workout routine with 72 hours of rest in between each workout. You can do that routine indefinitely. There's no need to ever change your workout routine. That's a ridiculous myth, and the reason is because, first of all, if you're addressing all the major muscle groups and training them to failure with a volume frequency that you can recover from and adapt to, stick with it indefinitely, unless you want maybe an A and B workout for variety. But the myth that you need to switch your workout is mostly due to because when you do a different exercise, when you throw in a different exercise after doing the same exercises for a while, your body is not used to it. So you generally will develop soreness from that exercise. And people falsely believe that this soreness is due to, or the soreness is resulting in growth or improvement from the exercise. So people think that if you're getting sore from an exercise, it's effective. So what happens is people try a new exercise or they switch up their workout program, they get sore, and they mistakenly believe that switching is advantageous because they got sore. That is wrong. Soreness may result from training, but soreness is not an indication that the workout was effective. Soreness is just an indication you did something different with your body. Like, what's a good example? Sometimes if you wear a different pair of shoes, your feet might get sore. If you sit in a different chair for a while, you might get sore. It's just an indication of a different stress on your body, not necessarily the indication of an effective workout. So there's no need to ever switch your training as long as you have an adequate volume and frequency. But you could do like an A and B workout. So say, for instance, one workout you do a pull down, one workout you do a chin up, or another workout you do a pull over. Or one workout you do a chest press, the other workout you do a chest fly. You can vary like that just for variety, just for psychological reasons, so it doesn't get too stale and boring. But there's really no reason to ever switch up a training routine. First of all, it almost isn't even, it's not really a routine. It's just addressing the major muscle groups and fatiguing them. You got like 10 more minutes. So if there are any other questions. You guys may notice when I'm doing these live streams, I'm drinking water all the time. So keep in mind, your muscle is about 75% water, 76% water. So if you want to grow muscle, most of it's water. You're going to have to drink a lot of this stuff. I probably go through, I don't know, 6 or 7 of these a day. I'm not sure how many, 32 ounces. So yeah, I'm going through like, I don't know, 200 ounces of water a day. You want to drink a lot of water. Especially, I live in Florida and it's 90 degrees out right now. If you're not drinking a lot of water, you're in big trouble. All right, any other questions? If not, I'm going to wrap this up. Again, check that link. If you want to learn all the good stuff, take my course. I just put it in the chat again. I go through a very high-quality video and high-quality explanation. All these concepts of exercise science. A little bit better than I would do on here. But yeah, go ahead and take that course. All right, everybody. That's it for me today. I've got a lot of topics coming up. The next one's going to be very interesting. What is today? Saturday. Probably do that Tuesday evening. Next topic, Tuesday evening. Come ready with questions. I'll answer them. The Patreon will be on. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. But basically what I'm going to do with Patreon is if I can get enough members, I'm going to make it, more or less like a full-time gig. I'm going to do a lot of videos as long as, it's worth the time. So if I can get, about, maybe 200 members or so, I'm going to be dumping content like you wouldn't believe on that. And also do more of a professional presentation too. I would literally set up a studio for that. So I'm going to get my feet wet in Patreon. The more members I get, the higher the quality content's going to be, the more content's going to come out. So we'll see. Probably give it another week or two, because right now what I'm doing actually is I'm creating content for the Patreon. So right when you get into the Patreon, I'm going to have a bunch of content for you immediately. A bunch of content that I did not cover here is going to be available on Patreon immediately. I'm also going to do workout demonstrations, start to finish, exercise demonstrations, start to finish, because obviously I can't do it in front of a webcam. So I'm going to have it professionally filmed. Actually, I'm planning a workout with Drew Bay. Since he only lives about an hour and a half away from me, so he's going to put me through a workout. If you're not familiar with Drew Bay, check out bay.com. I'll put it in the comments. Bay.com, tons of good information. He's going to put me through a workout. That workout's going to be available on Patreon too, and only to Patreon members, because I don't know if you've listened to Drew Bay talk, but he will go into very good detail about all the stuff. So we're going to go through a workout, and he's going to do an explanation. And throughout the entire workout, we're going to be using all MedX equipment at a local HIIT studio. And it's going to be tremendously valuable, but only available to Patreon subscribers. And then I'm going to take that video, chop it up into bits for Patreon members to go. Say you want to watch a demonstration of a chest press with Drew Bay's explanation and my performance of it. That's going to be all chopped up too. So for Patreon members, there's going to be a ton of HIIT stuff. And we're going to crush it. So keep you guys in the loop about that. And if there are no other questions, the price for the Patreon, I'm gonna set it up at $20 a month. So $5 a week. $5 a week, and you don't have to read books for 7 years like I did. So pretty good value, because it's a lot easier for you to get the information from me than to read every single one of Ellington Darden's books. And it took me years and years and years to learn this stuff. But I want to get it out there, and I want to get it out there properly. So I'm going to do it in the Patreon, a Patreon membership. And also, I'm going to do weekly Q&As where I'm not even going to have a topic. I'll just sit here for an hour and a half or 2 hours and answer all your questions. Can't beat it. So that'll be up within the next week or two. So that's it. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Go ahead and rewatch this. Talked a lot about, adaptive thermogenesis. Lots of good stuff that you probably never heard about. But again, there's a lot more to come with this kind of stuff. I just like to scratch the surface with these live streams, but there's a lot more detail that I'll be going into. So stay tuned for it. Stay tuned for the next topic. It's going to happen Tuesday night. Come ready with questions, and we'll bust some myths. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. See you in a couple days.